Welcome to Gaia's Calling, where stories ignite your spirit and the earth whispers her secrets. I'm Brad Swift, a Right-on-Purpose author of eco-fiction and nonfiction, inviting you to become an eco-guardian. Together, let's explore the wonders of our world and take action to protect them. Listen closely. Gaia is calling. And today's Gaia's Call is the Four Greats Truth, a Sacred Blueprint. Today, Part 3, Reciprocity. Life thrives on giving back. So, here's the question. What if the secret to abundance is what we give away? Yeah, in Part 1, we explored great truth, number 1, interconnectedness, how we are not separate from nature, but woven into its web. In Part 2, we looked at great truths, number 2, sufficiency, and saw how our world is not defined by lack, but by our ability, or our inability, to recognize what we already have. Now, we come to the third great truth, reciprocity. If we are part of a living system, and yes, we are, if that system already holds enough, which it does, then the question becomes, what is our role within it? The answer, I believe, is found in the simple but transformative principle, life thrives on mutual exchange. So let's look at the truth of reciprocity. Reciprocity is not a new idea. It's the oldest one of all. It's how life has always worked. The sun shines and the plants grow. The plants feed the animals fertilize the soil. Everything gives and everything receives, and the cycle continues. But somewhere along the line, we seem to have forgotten. We built a civilization around taking, not giving, extracting, and not replenishing, using up, not restoring. And this great untruth that the earth resources are infinite and ours to take, well, it's brought us to the brink. Do you want a quick reminder of how this truth lives in you? Try inhaling, and then keep inhaling. Really. Pause for a moment and give it a try. I'll do it as well. Kind of tough, isn't it? Because the very design of our body insists on reciprocity. You must inhale and exhale. You must exhale and then inhale. You receive life and then you give life back. And so does the planet. So does every living system. Reciprocity is the medicine. It's how we restore balance. It's how we make things right again, not overnight, but over time. Now, why does this matter? Well, we are not in a crisis simply because we take from the earth. We are in a crisis because we've stopped giving back. And like any system where the outflow exceeds the inflow, we're running on empty, ecologically, socially, and even spiritually. But reciprocity, when practiced, reawakens the cycle of life. And life, when honored, well, it responds. We witnessed this globally during the early days of the COVID pandemic. When our human systems slowed down, the earth responded almost immediately. Skies cleared, wildlife returned, carbon levels dipped, waters ran cleaner. As heartbreaking as that time was, it offered a glimpse of how responsive, how alive this planet truly is, and how quickly it can heal when given the chance. Now let's look and see where we see this truth in action. Let's zoom in on some beautiful, tangible expressions of reciprocity in our world today. To start with, agroforestry and regenerative farming. In once depleted lands across Africa, South America, and even here in the United States, farmers are ditching chemical-heavy monoculture and returning to ancient reciprocal methods. They plant trees alongside crops. They rotate animals and compost. They restore the soil instead of stripping it bare. In these systems, everything feeds everything else. Yields rise. Soil holds more water. Biodiversity returns. It's farming that gives back. And the land, in turn, gives more generously than ever before. Then there's the rewilding movement. In Yellowstone, when wolves were introduced after decades of absence, something miraculous happened. The elk population, no longer unchecked, moved differently. Trees began to regrow. Birds and beavers returned. Riverbanks stabilized. The land remembered itself. This is the power of letting nature lead, of recognizing that our role isn't domination, it's participation. We can give back not just by planting, but sometimes by stepping aside and allowing life to flourish again. And then one of my favorites, biochar and soil regeneration. Michael Smith's GPH. That stands for Growth Powerhouse. It's a project that brings ancient wisdom into modern form. Biochar, made by burning organic matter in a low oxygen environment, sequesters carbon, holds moisture, and regenerates tired soil. As Garth Well points out in his 2023 article, Regenotech and the Sustainable Powerhouse, Michael Smith has effectively created a supercharged, closed-loop greenhouse, burning waste with gasification and using waste gas to grow algae and run a generator with a biochar byproduct that is superfood for soil. This simple biochar substance, once used by indigenous farmers in the Amazon, is now being used to restore degraded land around the world. Here again, waste becomes resource. Carbon becomes life. That's reciprocity in action. So, how about a lesson from the wild with the Eco Guardian team? Tess crouched in the shadow of a fallen tree, running her fingers through the soft, rich soil. Zach and the rest of the Eco Guardians stood nearby, watching her with curiosity. This forest is alive, she said, not just in the way we think, plants and animals and insects, but in the way it gives back to itself. Zach tilted his head. You mean the trees? Tess nodded. Yes, and the fungi, and the insects, and the birds. Everything here is part of a cycle. When one tree dies, it becomes food for the next generation. When leaves fall, they feed the soil. Even what seems like waste becomes wealth. She stood and brushed her hands off on her pants. Humans forgot this. We got so good at taking, we stopped asking how to give. Later that day, the team helped a nearby village plant native trees on the edge of their fields, not to harvest, but to restore. The villagers weren't sure at first, felt unfamiliar, but slowly the soil began to change. The water table rose. The crops began to flourish. It's like the land is thanking us, one elder said. How we can live this truth. Reciprocity begins with awareness and blossoms through action. Here's what it looks like in real life. Compost your food scraps. Ann and I love this simple practice. We keep a glass container on the kitchen counter, which is pictured if you're on here on Substack, and it's my job to regularly empty it into the compost pile, which is also pictured here. It's so simple and so effective. What once was waste now nourishes our garden, which nourishes ourselves, and the cycle continues. On top of it all, gardening can also nourish our mind and spirit, not to mention what great exercise it is. Another option, plant trees and care for the ones already growing. A few years ago, I discovered that several of the trees on our property were being suffocated by invasive English ivy. After learning just how damaging this could be, I spent a few hours carefully removing the ivy. When Tropical Storm Helene tore through our area last September, trees fell all around us, but not a single one on our property. I believe with all my heart it's because they were stronger, healthier, and yes, grateful. Give back to the places that sustained you. There's a vacant lot across from our house, owned by someone who doesn't live here. And again, we've got a picture here. It was neglected, overgrown, its trees overwhelmed by ivy. So I've quietly adopted it. Almost every day I head over and free one more tree. Just one, slow and steady. That's all it takes. And you can check out this short YouTube video that I have a link here to on how to do this safely and without dangerous pesticides. Support regenerative farmers and businesses, especially local ones. Look for those who give back more than they take. Your dollars are powerful tools for reciprocity too. Choose to invest in soil healing practices, carbon positive goods, and businesses that nourish both people and the planet. Consider every purchase you make as a vote for the future we want. Imagine your shopping list as a living love letter to the earth. Ask yourself daily, what am I giving back? Not from guilt, but from gratitude. Because reciprocity isn't a sacrifice. It's a loving relationship with Mother Earth. It's how we say thank you to the world that gives us everything. So here's a pondering question. I'd love you to respond to with a comment. And there's a comment link right here. Where do you see reciprocity in your own life? And how could you make this important distinction more prevalent in the world? Okay, I admit it, that's 2 questions. But please leave me a comment. The obstacle becomes the way. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the damage we see around us, the pollution, the deforestation, the greed. But what if that overwhelm isn't a barrier, but a doorway? What if the pain we feel is really the opening? What if it's pointing us back to a more natural rhythm? As the Stoics remind us, the obstacle is the way. The problem contains the seed of the solution. And in this case, the imbalance of extraction invites us back into balance through reciprocity. The wound is real, but so is the healing. So, a closing reflection. What if everything we took, we replenished? What if giving back wasn't the afterthought, but the foundation? What if the shift from takers to stewards was the very transformation we've been waiting for? Yeah, you don't need permission, and you don't need a degree in ecology. You don't even need a backyard. You just need the willingness to give back to life in whatever ways are available to you right here and right now. Because when you live in reciprocity, we step into the deeper rhythm of the earth. And life, when honored, always gives back more than we could ever imagine. So here's your invitation to engage. If this truth speaks to you in some way, please don't keep it to yourself. Like all living systems, this work needs feedback, flow, and exchange. Here's how you can give back to the movement. First, leave a comment. Share a story with me, a question, a reflection. Let this be a place where real conversations grow. And by the way, I want to thank all those who have been leaving me comments and sharing this work as well. Thank you so much. And then like this post. A simple tap tells the algorithm and me that this matters. Share it with one person, someone you care about, someone ready to give back. So, thanks for reading Unleashed. It's posted public, so feel free to share it. Together, we are co-creating a new way of being. One breath, one compost bin, one freed tree at a time. Let's walk this path of reciprocity together. And remember, this newsletter and One Cause itself is a purpose-inspired series for those raising the next generation of Earth stewards. So please subscribe and discover tools, stories, and inspiration for creating a thriving, just, and regenerative future. And this is Brad Swift, signing off for today.